We're live.
Good morning, commissioners. Welcome to our SPLOST Phase 8, September the 3rd, 2020 work session. As we all know, SPLOST is an important and an attractive tool for funding local government projects. We all know without SPLOST, we would not have projects such as our municipal building, our judicial center, our ability to purchase law enforcement vehicles, new fire stations, just to name a few of the funded projects from SPLOST. Today, we're here to simply continue the discussion of SPLOST 8. We know with SPLOST, it will ensure us to continue to have a thriving and a great community. If you all can go ahead and start the presentations at this time. If you go to the next slide, Jeff.
Give me 1 second, Mr. Administrator.
Okay, thank you. So we all know what the acronym SPLOST is, and I thought it was appropriate to continue to have it there. It's an optional 1% county sales tax used to fund capital outlay projects. Go to the next slide, please. Just an update for you all. For our SPLOST 7, total amount to be collected is about $215.5 million. Collections as of July 31st, 2020, we collected $166.4 million. Our average monthly collection is about $3.2 million. SPLOST 7 projected end date is December 31st, 2021. For our SPLOST 8, we're projected to collect $250 million. Our collection began January 1st, 2022, and an end date of June 30th, 2028, with 6.5 years of collection. As you all can recall, we had some scheduled work sessions, but due to the pandemic, we had to cancel those. If you go to the next slide, please. There are certain characteristics that make a thriving community. It must be open. It must have something for everybody. It must be attractive and maintain its demand. It needs to be sustainable and a livable environment. And we know that SPLOST provides this for us. We also value the importance of having the citizen engagement, and we will have continued information sessions after a list is presented to allow the public to have input. We know that we can inform and educate, but we cannot advocate for it. The next slide, please. Back in February, we had a work session where some of the commissioners were there and they identified some priorities under the different categories. For public safety, it was RCCI for a new facility at $15 million. For quality of life, it was Dias Park at $6 million. Our general government obligations, the cyber debt, the administrative costs and interest of bonds. Our infrastructure, it was identified of resurfacing $75 million. Government facilities, juvenile court facility and animal service facility, and other governments, Blythe and Hesba. So at that particular work session, $149 million were identified projects at that time for the commissioners that were present at the meeting. Again, our suggested target collection is $250 million. If you go to the next slide, please. We thought it was important for us also to show the priorities by the category, to show the percentage. So if we continue with the February work session, we had $104 million request for public safety. We had committed / semi-committed of $15 million, which represented about 6%. Quality of life, $331 million of requests, about $6 million of committed, semi-committed, which represent about 2%. Our general government, $45 million requested, $25.5 million identified in the February work session, which represent about 10%. Our infrastructure, $286 million requested. $75 million were identified at that time, which represent 30%. Government facilities, $55 million were requested. $22.3 million were identified at that meeting, and that represent about $9 million. So again, a total at that meeting was $149 million. I'd like to make you all aware, we received over $900 million of requested projects for SPLOST 8. And with a suggested target collection for only $250 million, as you can imagine, that created a daunting test for us to try to get before you all an acceptable SPLOST list. The next slide, please. We provided to you all back in March a administrator's recommended SPLOST list. This particular slide here simply is just a recommendation that reflects all of our categories. We wanted to make sure our goal was to consider all of our categories and had some funding for the different categories, such as public safety, quality of life, general government, infrastructure, government facilities. And if you can see the dollar amounts for those categories, for public safety, the request was $104 million. The administrator's recommendation is $83 million, which represent about 32%. Quality of life, we received a request of over $331 million. We're recommending about $50 million, which represent about 19% of the total. General government, we received a request of about $45 million. We're recommending about $26.5 million of projects, which represent about 10%. Infrastructure and facility, we received a request over $286 million, and we're recommending $62 million worth of projects, which represent about $24 million. I'm sorry, 24% of the total. Government facilities, we received a request of $55 million of projects. We're recommending about $29.6 million of projects, which represent about 11%. And our other government obligations, Hesba and Blythe, we received a request or obligations $5.8 million, and we're recommending the 5.8, a total of a little over $250 million of the recommendations from our administrator's recommendation list. We are indicating again, this is simply a recommendation, and we are looking at a holistic and a strategic approach with the list that's before you all. We know that there are some key dates. The next slide, please. We know there are some key dates before us to stay on path for our March 16, 2021 election. Continued work sessions up to the 27th of October. We have scheduled and this is tentative, October the 20th intergovernmental meeting. The SPLOST 8 project list needs to be approved by October to 27th. Our intergovernmental agreement needs to be approved by December the 1st. Commission would pass the SPLOST resolution by December the 15th. And January the 6th next year, we would issue the call of election for the SPLOST. and this would stay on path for our March the 16th, 2021 election. We do, next slide, please. We do have several open items that we definitely need some discussion for today. Are we going to receive new requests? And if so, can we have a cutoff date of the 14th of September? Are we going to revise our project list? If so, can we also continue with the date of September the 14th? Are you all going to consider NGOs? And also, are we going to schedule some future work sessions? And are we going to have it topic related? If we're going to have, say, for example, a public safety work session or infrastructure work session or quality of life work session, but we kind of want to make sure we have the scheduled work sessions and themes for those work sessions. And we have staff available to entertain and take you all's questions, commissioners.
Mr. Minister, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir.
I see
Well,
several hands.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, sir. You break out. Thank you for the opening comments. Great job. In your $257 million package that you put together, is there a list of all of those items somewhere? Do we have that of what all those projects entail?
Yes, sir. We emailed it back to you all yesterday. We can get it back.
Okay. Because we're talking about a new arena, and they had a request for about $25 million. Was that included on your list?
I do not recall. I don't think there was, sir. And that was what we wanted to do today, is to kind of get the dialogue going. You know, last conversation was back in February before the pandemic. So we kind of wanted to start back the dialogue and the discussion if there are some projects that needed to be included. And we did email that list to you all.
Okay. All right. I just have to look for that. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Marion Williams, to see your hand, sir. You on mic, you on mute.
Okay. I appreciate the presentation to get started as well. And I'm concerned about the total amount. I think you said around 250 we were looking at. Public safety is right at 104 million, I think. And you cut it down to what, 89? Is that what you cut it down to?
Yes, public safety, their request, we have public safety projects over $104 million. And the recommendation we have is about $83 million with the projects and the list of projects. I'm sorry.
And that concerns me. I mean, I'm in support of public safety, and we got to have that. But I don't think we are doing, this government body is doing a good job of, I guess, patrolling or keeping up with the public safety, like equipment and stuff that we buy. This couple have. We never can have too much public safety. Let me say that. But we want the taxpayers, and we can't frighten them with talking about public safety. And that's what we do a lot of times. The sheriff and the fire department, we done built more than we ever built before, and there's still funds left. We still got forfeiture money that comes into the sheriff department that we don't give an account of. There's a lot of things with public safety. So I'm not against that, but I think we got to be cautious because we want this thing to pass. We've got to put some quality of life enhancement that's going to bring other monies in so we can continue the public safety that we need to do. If we build just on, and we didn't have a public safety, let me rephrase that. We had a public safety issue where we didn't have enough cars, didn't have the equipment that the public safety needed, but we changed out too fast. I'm not going to confuse the people by saying, you know, we all public safety want $89 million to go. Our city, our young fund, we spend half of this budget on public safety now. So Are we going back to the old days of the West when the public safety or the law enforcement comes in and just takes over everything? I'm not going to scare the people like that. So I think we need to really look at that, and that's a hard job. Look at that good. But we've got to put those things in there that's going to create revenue for our city. And that's what we have not been doing in Augusta. We have not put things in place that are going to help us attract taxpayers' dollars and visitors' dollars to come into our city. So just want to point that out. I'm not against public safety, but I'm not going to support all the stuff we're talking about with the fire department, with all the money they got left now, with all the stuff we done built. We don't have the manpower. We can always need. We've got to be, as elected officials, you got to be smart enough to know that we got to work with what we got and can't keep getting the new bells and whistles. We got 2 command stations, one for the sheriff department and for the fire department. We didn't need but one. That wasn't my call, but I'm just trying to get us to think about what we're doing here versus just shooting in the dark out there.
I appreciate your feedback, Commissioner. I noticed your hand, Commissioner Sias.
Yes, I think go to Commissioner Garrett and then I come after him, please.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Commissioner Sias and Administrator. I guess my first question leading into these discussions, what is going to be, and I'm asking my colleagues here, since September 14th is going to be the cutoff, is that something that we've all agreed to, or is that just the Administrator Office asking us to have everything submitted by then? And on the 14th, will we be having a meeting to finalize the final submissions? And what is the appropriate way, even after this meeting today, to submit items to this list?
Okay,
Commissioner, Administrator, you have an answer? If not, one of us can.
I thought he was asking you all when he said.
I was asking about the date to make sure that we were all in agreement with that.
I don't see a problem with that, Commissioner, but you can always submit whatever you want. You're the Commissioner. I mean, you can get it in. That's just my opinion now, and we kind of been looking at this for a while, so hopefully everybody would know.
I'm just making sure we're all on the same page, Commissioner.
Okay. All right, my turn now, Mr. Administrator.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sias.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. That mean more than 2. Number one, when you made your recommendation, you had the thing where I think it was like 149 million that we talked about as a commission in the very beginning. Now, when I see your list, did you take into consideration what we had? I know it's on the email you sent out. I believe it's right up there on the first page of what the commissioners had talked about at their very first meeting. Yes, and that was 149 million. What did you take off from that particular thing? It had public safety, quality of life, general government, infrastructure, facilities, and other governments. What did you take off that particular page? And when I say take out, what did you include from that page?
Commissioner, we made a recommendation regarding the amount, certain amounts.
All right, then do me a favor. Go down that list. You know the one I'm talking about, right? And tell me what the modifications you made, and starting with RCCI. Because on that list, RCCI has 15 million. Did you change that?
The RCCI remained the same.
Okay, quality of life with Dyers Park, that was 6 million. What did you change from that one?
The Dyers Park remained the same.
Okay, the cyber debt retirement debt, what did you change from that one?
That also remained the same.
On the resurfacing then, on the infrastructure, that was 75 million. What did you change from that?
We modified that amount.
I'm asking you what?
Just a moment, sir. And I also, Jeff, if you can bring in the team as well Donna, Tim, Maurice. I think that amount from 75 million for infrastructure, we recommended $15 million.
I'm talking about road resurfacing. I ain't talking about I ain't talking about the infrastructure thing as a whole.
The total amount for, again, we had certain projects that were recommended. The amounts.
I ain't talking about those projects, Administrator. I'm talking about resurfacing.
Resurfacing was $75 million. And we were recommending 15 million to accommodate more projects and accommodate more of the categories.
Okay, now I understand what you're saying. So you went from 75 to, you all went, not saying you personally, but y'all went from 75 million to 15.
Yes, sir, to try our best to take a holistic, strategic approach.
I got that part.
Okay.
I got that part. Okay, now, the issue I have with that is we got a lot of raggedy roads in Augusta. And when we talk about incentive for citizens to pass this SPLOST, we're going to have to do better than that. I recommend that 75 million for road resurfacing, and we have some things in tier that we can add to that. But one of the problems is we haven't had a good general road resurfacing in Augusta since Christ was a corporal. And we really need to focus on some resurfacing. So I just want to put it out there. And we're going to have to come out much better than that. From 15, I'm recommending 75, but for me, I'll probably be willing to sell it for 50 or 60. But I still believe truly we got a real road problem in Augusta. And we need to fix that. And that's one of the things that the citizens can truly benefit from, and everybody from not tearing up the buildings and every crazy thing else around here on these raggedy streets. So, Mr. Administrator, I appreciate your thoughts and your holistic approach on that, but I won't be fighting this thing like hell if we don't do no better than $15 million for road resurfacing. Then it's going to be a problem with me to support it, period. All right? So that's my number one focus, is for us to do better for our road resurfacing in Augusta, Georgia. We got a bunch of raggedy roads and a few roads that need resurfacing, that need asphalt on them as well. Thank you. For now, that's my comment for now.
Okay. Commissioner Fano, I see your hand, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Administrator, for the past 25, 30 years, downtown Augusta have been addressing the issues of blight, abandoned houses, and vacant lots. I would like to see $15 million in the next SPLOST package to take care of all of the abandoned houses, and whatever monies we have left over, use that money to encourage the development of those areas. And I'm not talking about $100,000 or $150,000 houses. On some of the properties are so small that it can't, it won't pass code enforcement to build a house. But we have an opportunity right now to SPLOST to seriously address the problem of blight and abandoned houses, and to encourage development. What that does is that once we take a house down, then if we could develop that property, we don't have to worry about cutting the lots on down the road. And we also would add value to the tax books, because that piece of property is being developed. So I would like to see a minimum of $15 million to address that issue. and would also like for the RA board to bond that project so we could begin immediately with the demolition and development.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Size, your hand is up again. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, it's gonna be up a lot of time, but here's what I want to say. Let me put that number back out there. I started with a recommendation of 75, so I won't put that number. Since my colleague talking about 15, I will move down to 60, or I recommend a 60 for road resurfacing, 60 mil. I'm requesting that. And that's throughout Augusta, Georgia, and Richmond County.
Okay. Mr. Administrator.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
My focus is development. I think we need to make sure that we think about projects that are global, that affect most of the people or all of the people in Augusta, Georgia. We don't need to just be specific. I agree with Commissioner Panoy about the 15 million, but I don't think it needs to be just for one particular location. I think it needs to be all of Augusta. Also, with economic development, I've been talking to various people, and they're talking to various restaurant folks and businesses and what have you, and trying to get those businesses spread out throughout Augusta, Georgia, and South Augusta, and other areas. So I think in my conversation, I think we need to make sure we give the Economic Development Authority some money. And I'd like to ask for 20 million for them so that they can develop paths. So when people come in and request restaurants and or other businesses, that they can locate them. We can't expect them to do the job that we expect them to do if they don't have any money. My understanding is that for South Augusta, they're in talks with various restaurants that will make a real dent, a real impression. So I just want to throw that out there. I'd like to get 20 million for the Economic Development Authority, because we talk about different things that affect what goes on in Augusta, Georgia. The people are expecting, the people are wanting, the people do diligence in calling and talking about the different restaurants and or different things that they like to see throughout the city, not just in one part of the city, but throughout the city. So with that said, again, I'd like to request $20 million for the Economic Development Authority. So Commissioner Size might have to go down to 50 million. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Marion Williams, go ahead, sir.
Are we supposed to be just giving you a recommendation today? Is that what we're doing? I mean, I'm hearing some things, and I thought we was gonna get an update of where we are, and if we're gonna start to put the amount to what we think to give to you, so you can kind of, I mean, how's this gonna work? It's my first question. I got several more, but that's my first question.
Thank you for that question. Well, the purpose today was for us to start back the discussions for the SPLOST, to kind of get some feedback from you all regarding some certain projects. If there are categories, if you all wanted to say, for example, public safety, we received $104 million worth of requested projects, and you all say, we only want to have $50 million of public safety projects, and then you all determine what projects they are. Or in the same example.
And I get that. I just want to be clear on what we're doing. Let me
I'm in the.
Let me go back to something that we have, I think, missed the ball on, is that the road improvement the restaurants and stuff like that is coming to, that we want to see in Augusta. That's economic development, but we've got to do something. If we give money to the development authority, I'm not opposed to that. But you don't just give money to build a restaurant in a location. There's got to be a demand for that, meaning that we got to look at the growth of the city and how we attract people to the city in order to get those businesses to open up in the city. You put a business there, and I heard the discussion about an arena. We can't fill the one we got up now. We want to build a bigger one. That tells me that we're working backwards. If we build a big one, we can't fill the one we got up now. I think it's been proposed to build it back in the same location across the street. Wherever they build it at, it's fine. Why would you build a bigger one when you can't do anything with the one you got? Amen. So those projects that we're talking about, we gotta realize, in my opinion, again, that the economic dollars are going to drive the roads, going to drive the businesses. If we attract people to our city, that's going to bring money, because when they come, they're going to buy gas, food, and all the other essentials they got to have. That creates like other cities are doing. We can't be different. We got to be like other cities. We got to do the same thing other cities doing in order to make the money. And the roads need fixing. I get that. We got public safety. They need to be taken care of too. But what we got to do, in my mind, is put a SPLOST list together that the people going to get excited about. They're going to see the growth. They're going to see the business coming. They're going to see the job opportunities coming. Because when you grow, that's what growing is. You don't just grow one-sided. You grow the whole thing. So even the abandoned homes, the abandoned houses, I get that. But it ain't about that. We got to have money to come in to take care of those things. Are we going to wait another 5 years on another SPLOST to do it? We should have been way ahead of the game than what we are now by just looking around at our neighbors to see what Savannah, Atlanta, Macon, Columbus, look what they're doing, and we need to do the same thing. So I'm gonna leave it right now, but I'll be back for sure.
Mr. Administrator.
Go ahead, Commissioner Son. I see you also, Commissioner Clark.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna go back to Commissioner Brandon Garrett's initial question. I don't think we're gonna meet that September 14th deadline. I think you're at a point now, and I'm gonna apologize to you. And we try to get that list again, that what you did, it came out to 257 million. That probably would give us a list that we can begin to pull stuff from, because you've done your job. So obviously here's some of the things that we want, that some of us out from our wish list. So we probably need to have exactly before us how you got your $257 million, and we start excluding or including some things from there about how we're going to move forward. And so now it's become more of a commission decision, even though we're speaking to you, is getting now where commissioners going to have to do some bargaining and trading among themselves about what make this list. And by you trying to do it, I think it's just putting you've done your job on this list when it's time that we have conversations among ourselves. But I think the best way, in fairness to the body of work that you and your staff has already done, we need to get our hands once again on how you got that 257 million, which you say you sent out. I just don't have it before me, and I apologize for that. And we need to try to get better. But I can tell you need to move that deadline and let us continue to negotiate among ourselves, because I think overall the conversation, what we were talking about, when we were talking about an arena, when we were talking about finally dealing with the vacant and abandoned property, when we were talking about resurfacing of the road, we were talking about all those things are something quite different in of itself than we've ever done before. Also, when you're talking about with the Economic Development Authority, because one thing that came out last year that had never happened before, I think an issue that was challenged in court in up near the Atlanta area, is that historically you could not give incentives to retail businesses to come in your community. Well, that has been challenged and it has been successful, and now the governments can do that. So to give us some sense of leverage to be able to do those things. So bottom line, I don't think we're going to meet the September 14th deadline, and I think you may agree based on what you're hearing. But at the same time, it's about us putting this list together and trying to get you out of the middle. As you walk away and try to put what each commissioner said, you're just in the middle of our conversation that we need to be having with each other at this point. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. You know, I'm sitting here listening, and I'm hearing excellent uses for this money. I think Commissioner Sias has an excellent idea on the money for the roads. I think Commissioner Fenoy has an excellent idea on the blighted properties. I think that's something we need to put money into. Commissioner Marion Williams, of course, with the economic development, 300% with him. That's the reason why, you know, I'm putting the museum piece in the puzzle here. And I'm not asking for a whole lot. I'm only asking for $5.5 million out of it to put together a package of museums that we can have what's called Museum Row that could possibly bring dollars into this city for people to visit all of our historic museums and the ones that we have and the two that we're trying to build now. I think that would be a good development. Miss Nancy at the Augusta Museum is going to have a presentation on her part. But that's what I would like to see help drive some economy into this city. I think it would be something that would do this city good. And so that's what I'm putting out there. And that's all I'm asking for on this is around $5.5 million. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm trying to see if I see any more hands.
You don't have any more comments, Mr. Administrator?
Well, I kind of want to follow up with.
I want to throw something out. I want to throw something out there that's way out there in another park, way out there in space and what have you. And I've said this to several commissioners. Every time I go on my phone or go on my iPad and ask, what's fun in Augusta, Georgia, the Riverwalk comes up. So if I put what's fun in Augusta, and every time I do that, the Riverwalk comes up or what have you. I took my girl out to Stars and Stripes. There was so many folks out there. You can't have fun out there. I went to Top Golf. It was $45 an hour. I said, I can't afford that. So what else am I looking at in Augusta, Georgia to have fun? Not too much. So I want to, at some point in time, probably not this SPLOST, but maybe this SPLOST, I don't know, that we look at a water park. If people like Statesboro, Georgia can have a water park, we can have a water park. So we got to have somewhere for our people to go. I'm thinking we got to think globally what affects most of the people in Augusta, Georgia. This $250 million that the people are going to be given, but what are we giving them? We're not giving them very much. But at some point in time, I like us to consider a water park for our citizens in Augusta, Georgia, just like Commissioner Marion Williams said. You're going to attract so many people from around the area, not just Augusta, Georgia, Carolina, Burke County, places like that, people who will come in to go to the water park. So we need to start thinking globally how we can use this money to affect many.
I don't
so
know. Get started at 10,
water
but I'll
park.
call you back.
Okay.
All right.
Well, Commissioner, just to kind of follow back up about some of the open items, we are able to, based on the directions today, revise that September the 14th date. But I would like to be mindful that we are approaching our budget season, and we will be trying to do both the SPLOST as well as get you all a 2021 budget. So we were trying to maximize the time and trying to focus on the SPLOST while also knowing we're going to start our budget season as well. In regarding, we take all of you all's list that you all are suggestions you all providing today equally as serious, and we can take those. But I do think if you all will take the list that was provided to you all from us, the recommendation, you all will review that. And then if you want to make some changes and get it back to us, we'll be happy to incorporate you all's decisions on what you all see best for the appropriate SPLOST list for us. Mayor Pro Tem, I see your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. So I'm not going to throw anything out today just because I just don't think it's the time yet. But like my thing is, I agree. September 14th, that is way too quick. Administrator, like, what is the date? Can we go 2 weeks later? Can we go October 1st? Because there's still some dialogue that needs to happen between these commissioners on, like, everybody's kind of thrown out kind of their list. And there's a lot of good things that are mentioned and a lot of them I support. But we got to make sure that, you know, we only have 250+ million to work with. So number one, we need to find out kind of what that date looks like. And number two, like the discussion around the NGOs, you didn't recommend them. Having that dialogue with the body, is the body going to not recommend them? Because if we're not going to recommend them and there's not the support there to have them, then that kind of whittles down what we have to decide on and talk about to find that $250 million amount. So that would be my next thing. And then I would just hope that, like, if we're going to have NGOs or any presentations from outside organizations, that we give them the opportunity to come present, even if there's a few commissioners that only show up, because I think that's the right thing to do. We've done it in the past. So giving them the opportunity to kind of present their case of what they want to do, because some commissioners might know more about those than others and why it's important to them. So that's kind of where I'm at of, we need to pick a date that's a little bit farther away. We need to determine whether NGOs are going to be in or not in this body. So thank you.
Okay. If Tim can kind of chime in about the date, if we could pull back a couple weeks or so.
Sure. Based on our calendar, we can push it back a couple weeks. I mean, we need to, if we're still going with the March election and trying to avoid working in November, October 20th is a real key date for that intergovernmental meeting with Hepzibah and Blythe, and then October 27th is another key date for when we're projecting the SPLOST list is approved. So depending on how y'all want to do it, we can move that back a couple of days. We just wanted to make sure you all wanted to open it back up again. So it has been closed since January. So if you wanted to push it back to the end of the month, that's fine, but that just means October is getting a little crunched.
Okay, thank you. And I think that this body, I hope they would all agree that we need to back it up, because I mean, for 11 days from now and holiday weekend, that's just not a lot of time to have good dialogue between the body to decide kind of where we're going. So that's just my 2 cents, and I'll throw it back to the administrator. So thank you.
Okay, and we can push it back those 2 weeks. And as far as we did talk about, if there was a need for future work sessions based on topics, and if that's the will of the body, we can also schedule that as well. Donna, did you have your hand up? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I did find your list, and so I apologize. I did find it. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Marion Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. It sounds 2 weeks later be better. But I do hear a lot of the commission concerned about the economic part. If we just keep doing the same thing we've been doing with our SPLOST, unless we do the economic part, whether it be a water park, whether it be something that's going to excite the people and going to help this city economically, we're just going to keep waiting on the next SPLOST and the next SPLOST. We can do a SPLOST on a dollar amount. We can do it on a time frame where we don't have a dollar amount, and regardless of what we rate. Right now we're talking about $250,000, and that's good. If we had the economic dollars come in and we did a time frame, we might make 500 million. I mean, it just depends on how much economic dollars and the growth that we are changed to. So I don't want to get bogged down with the public safety coming in and saying, oh, woe is me. I see too much. I know too much about public safety on both sides of it to know that we can't cut them loose now. I'm not saying that, but we really got to back up and look at how we can get the economic money coming in the city so we can help public safety when time comes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Sias, I see your hand. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I thought you saw me before, but I'll leave that with that. But I need a clarification on something. I've heard Mr. Schrader say this a couple of times. He said the list had been closed, and another time he said about if we wanted to open the list back up. Now, we had that one work session that you referenced in your email that was sent out yesterday. We haven't had one since then, and you and staff had created one based on what y'all thought or what y'all was recommending. I'm trying to get a clarification on that. Why is this term being used? The list was closed or open it back up. Can I get an understanding or clarification on that? Because I know we hadn't closed it. So that's what I'm trying to get an understanding.
Sir, when I said the list was closed, we had a deadline of January for projects to be submitted. So I guess the list is closed. The project, submitting projects to be included in the request list, that was the one that was closed. Not the project list that's going to be voted on, but just collecting projects from outside, from our departments. That was the original deadline, was in January. So that's what I meant. That was closed.
So that's what you, okay. So that's a good clarification. So that is a point where I think the administrator mentioned earlier, where we gonna still accept projects. And I think that's what the mayor pro tem just referenced. So if we're going to do that, then that comes back along, that pushes us back even further if we're going to open up for NGOs to come in and make presentations. And we had said no NGOs last splash, and we switched that at the last minute. So I think this body needs to make a decision whether or not we gonna open this thing back up for any and everybody to put stuff in, or we had advertised it was closed or something like that, according to the administrator and the deputy finance director, because then that requires additional time and stuff to do that. I'm not against that, but I'm not particularly in favor of it either. So I think we need to get that decision done and then come back and refine this list really as we try to work our way down to something that we can be presented. Thank you.
I'm trying to see if I see any other commissioners' hands. Commissioners, we would like to thank you all today for the presentation. We will follow back up with Ms. Bonner about scheduling another date. We'll also make sure you all have the administrator recommended list of the projects. We'll be excited to get you all's feedback on any other projects that you all think we need to add or delete. As I indicated, we received over $900 million of projects, and with a $250 million collection, it's very challenging to try to make sure we accommodate all of the wishes of the commissioners with identifying, narrowing down the list. So if there are no other questions, we can end the meeting and we can follow up with Ms. Bonner about a new date. And we will revise the 14th date to be more accommodating and follow back up with you all on that. Go ahead, Commissioner Fennoy.
Yes, I think that between now and our next meeting, we need to decide whether we're going to include NGOs in our next and SPLOST 8 and be prepared to address that at our next meeting, so we will know the direction we'll be heading into. But I think we need to be thinking about that now and be prepared to make a decision at our next meeting.
Donna, did I miss anything or did we get everything?
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Can I ask
Mayor.
a follow-up to Commissioner Fenoy's question? Do we have the list of all the NGOs and their requests? Is it in that document? 'Cause I haven't.
The ones that we received, that's correct, sir.
We have them all. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Administrator, how soon can we get that hard copy?
Okay.
We could get it for you today.
Okay, I'll be down to your office to pick it up, okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Administrator, if the commission as a whole need that document, we will send it out today.
Thank you, Ms. Bonner.
It was the communication that was sent to you via email, but we will print it out, hard copies, and we'll send it out to everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Bonner.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you,
You're
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Thank you all, Commissioner.
Thank you.